Welcome to By Nature TV.
I'm Shahar.
And I'm Nash.
Today we are in Antelope Island, Utah.
Yes.
Beautiful day here.
Beautiful
right?
day, beautiful place.
We are going to tell you different ways for you to create contrast in your business. So
yes,
pay
super
attention.
important.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
So when we started taking wildlife photography, we had to train our eyes to spot the animals. Why? Because when animals are in their environment, they tend to blend with the environment, so they're very difficult to spot. Well, got me thinking, maybe Mother Nature knows that the brain likes to see contrast. You know, if bunnies were pink, I could easily spot them in this environment and, you know, either take a picture or shoot them to eat. So that's one of the reasons that they blend so well in the environment. Now, when it comes to business, it's very important to understand the concept that the brain likes contrast. It pays attention to contrast. So you as a business owner, you need to create contrast in your business. Contrast when you're marketing. Because if you blend with everybody else, if you're just like everybody else, people will not pay attention to you. So how do you do that? Let's see some examples. Let's suppose you go to networking meetings, okay? They're very popular in every city. And usually it's the same. A lot of people sitting around the table, they are all paying attention to the food. Everybody stands up and I do this and I help people with that. And you just don't listen to anything. So how can you create contrast in that type of environment? Of course, you could stand on the table and dance a merengue, but that wouldn't do very well for your business. But there are other ways. Let me tell you one way that Nashla does, and she's quite famous for that. When we are in a networking meeting and she has the 30-second commercial, she starts saying, "Did you know?" And then she goes into tell a fact about one animal in wildlife and what's the relation to that with business. So you might get the idea if you watch this show every week. Well, what happens? After a while, everybody, the moment she stands up, they already start laughing. They laugh during the story, and then they come talk to her, and they discuss the speed of which the wings of a bumblebee goes, or whatever is the topic for that week, and they start creating a relationship. Well, it's important here to notice that when you create contrast, you also need to be approachable and you need to be light, and therefore that's the reason she uses animals to do a correlation with business. And she does that so well that people talk about the way she does it even when she's not in a meeting. So that's one example that you can use in networking meetings. Another one, let's suppose you do trade shows, okay? Let me tell you how one of our clients, standards, they do. They go to a lot of medical conferences, and those conferences, they tend to be very big and at the same time very boring, right? Everybody's showing wheelchairs and canes and things like that. So the way they do is every single year they find a theme for their booth. So last year, for example, was baseball. So besides the decor of the booth itself, every single member, they have about 6 people in the booth, they were wearing baseball attire, right? So the caps and everything else. Well, that's in itself, it's cool because it's different than everybody else is doing in the same environment. But in the back of each shirt, besides the number, they have the title of that person. So we have, for example, the micromanager, the super entrepreneur, we have the cave commander. They also have all those titles on their business cards, and of course they use that through the year. Well, I've been there many times because we were speaking in the same type of conference, and I've seen several times people coming from other states, even other countries, and say, "I want to meet the cave commander. Who is the micromanager?" They think it's so cool. That creates that connection that they are looking for, and in a light and approachable way. Like I said, besides the contrast, light and approachable. One more example now from a bank in Australia, how you can use that on a website. So banks are a serious business, right? And you should think, oh, they have to have that image that is very corporate. This bank in Australia, if you go to their About Us page, you will see that they list the team members according to animals. So you have the fox, you have the raccoon, you have the frog, and there you go. Each member, one animal, and actually the thumbnail is a thumbnail with a cartoon of those animals. So it's a light and approachable way of creating contrast. What Every single bank website looks the same. They came out with a total new approach that creates contrast, so they don't blend in the environment, they stand out. And that's exactly what you have to do in your business. Hey, 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 a pink bunny, I can see a pink bunny. So a key point to understand is that we always need to be marketing to the 5 senses all the time. It's extremely important if you really want to engage the brain and engage people.
Yeah,
right?
it's true, because a lot of times we think that, hey, because we want to engage them, we need to talk on a level that's more up here, it's more like more brainiac type of thing. And in reality, you need to engage them emotionally first.
Yes. Just as a side note, you heard this before, the amygdala is the part of the brain that holds emotions, right? It's a part of the brain that really understands aroma, smell. It's a very short pathway to the amygdala, so it's important. Not only that, the whole reptilian brain also responds to imagery, which is visual, right? So it's very important because, like we said before, 85% of all purchases are made on an unconscious level first.
Yeah.
So if you're not talking to that part of the brain, you're just missing out.
Yeah.
So we made a list here for each sense, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the first one, sight, vision.
Sight. Yeah, there are many things that you can do visually to stimulate your prospects and clients. You know, and we're talking even simple things such as uniforms, what you have on there, that type of thing. The product design, the packaging, all of that matters.
So just remember always to use colors that will engage better,
Yep.
right? And using lots of imagery, right?
Yeah.
Like I said just a moment ago, imagery is really important to the reptilian brain.
You know what, it bears repeating because you've said it and I'll just say it again, but ultimately if you want to reach those parts of the brains, you need to use, like Shahar said, the imagery, the smell for the amygdala. And so if you want to connect with them, use those tools. Don't think that just talking will do, because it won't.
Yes, so use pictures in all your marketing material, be it the website, the brochure, especially faces, because the brain pays a lot of attention to faces.
So Shahar, we talked about sight. How about sound?
Yes, sound. I have a list for you because I can't memorize all of this, but sound is also extremely important, right? Product sound. So, you know, if you develop products, you have to pay attention to that, what kind of sound it makes when we are assembling, for example. Is it a nice click, or is something screechy? For example, the ear doesn't respond well to very high notes, so take a look at your products.
Now, what's so interesting about sound?
Well, you know, I was going to say now, music in your office is very important. Now, you have to pay attention to what's the age of your target market. You know that is very important for you to understand exactly who your target market is. Why? Because the ear likes what's used to. It's the eyes that like novelty. So you have to take that into consideration. So for example, in our office, we cater to a lot of baby boomers that are business owners, right? So the music that we play there is usually music from the 60s and 70s.
Golden oldies, that type of thing.
That kind of thing, because they are used to that. The ear likes what it knows, and the eyes like novelty. So we leave everything that is sound related to something that they are used to. So 60s and 70s in that case.
Which is, I find that fascinating, because so the ear likes what they're used to, the comfort, right?
Yes.
And the eyes, they like what's new. So like we were speaking earlier about like product design and things like that. That's the opportunity that you have to stand out, to make it edgy, to make it pop, because your eyes, through your eyes, you like novelty.
Yes.
You like what's new. You like to discover new things, and through your ears, you like to. That's what brings you a little bit of safety to hear things that you're already familiar with.
Yes, and a note of caution here: if you own a retail place or a restaurant, we see that it's very common that there is music there.
Yeah.
And we could talk a lot about this, for example, because I don't know if you're aware, but on a fast food restaurant with fast music, you tend to eat faster, which is a good thing because they want to turn you around like every 30 minutes somebody else, right?
Plus, if you eat faster, it doesn't give your, we're gonna get to nutrition here, but the faster you eat, the faster you'll consume more food.
Yes.
Because it doesn't give that,
The
stomach
time.
won't give you don't have the time to signal your brain that you're full, and so
Yes.
then you'll order more. So it's all about,
It takes about 20 minutes for you really for your brain to start saying, okay, I'm full. So by playing fast music, you're
you'll
jumping
finish
that,
sooner.
but you also make people rotate more. Now, the word of caution here is to the type of music and how loud it is. It's very common sometimes for you to enter in a restaurant that really the music is there because people in the kitchen want to hear and causes a disconnection because it's way too high or just inappropriate. I did a blog post some time ago about Jimmy John's, that is a sandwich place, which I like the sandwich very much, but I don't like the music they play there because it's usually heavy rock, and the restaurants, they, at least here in Newton, they tend to be
they're
very small.
smaller.
Well, the other day we were there in one of this Jimmy John's restaurant, and everybody that was sitting on the tables were over 30, easily, okay, over 30. And the music that was playing was extremely annoying, high pitch, very high, and it was a heavy metal, if I'm not wrong. Okay, the age of heavy metal with the boomers might be aligned, but it was not appropriate for the environment. So you causes a disconnection in your brain, and all you can say is, I'm not coming back here. So be careful with sounds. Okay, there's a lot to talk about sound.
Yep, there's
Okay,
quite a
even
bit.
language, and the language we are going to leave for another episode. but
So,
sound
Shahar,
too.
we talked about sight, we talked about sound, now there's taste. Tell us about
you're
taste.
good at that.
Well, I don't know, I'll give an example of what we do, and that'll basically illustrate the power of taste. But one thing that we do at our office, when people come, they come, you've heard us talk about the office several times, so I'm not going to repeat the whole thing, but you know that it's not your typical boring office. Basically, they walk in, they don't have a boring receptionist within the reception, they have what we call the star buzz, and they can help themselves to tea, hot chocolate, that type of thing, and they're by themselves, basically. But one thing that we do, jumping to the part, for instance, where we're doing a call to, we had a consulting session with them or something like that, and we're about to close the sale. One thing that we do, I'll often ask Shahar, we have some chocolate on the desk, so we have our business cards and things like that, but we have some chocolate. So I'll often say, hey Shahar, hand me a chocolate. And so she'll hand me a chocolate, I'll start eating, and then obviously we need to be polite, and we'll offer the prospect in front of us, hey, would you like some? And they'll take and they'll eat it. Well, we do this specifically because the chocolate puts them at ease. It gives them it's comfy, it
Lowers anxiety.
it lowers their anxiety, and right then at that moment, we tell them about what we have to offer. We show them the price and all of that.
Yes, you're not tricking them at all, but you're just putting them at ease, so the brain stops racing with all the doubts and the fears that will come.
Well,
but then you give them time really
just
to ground.
To ground themselves,
Yes.
to breathe, and to think about the moment, because ultimately, you're during that sale, you're introducing new things to them. You're talking about a gazillion things, so there's a bazillion other things going on in their heads. A lot of times, questions, things that they need to ask, do I have enough money, whatever it is. So by giving them that chocolate, it just puts them in it takes them from that frame of mind and puts them in a new one, where we lower the anxiety and then we introduce them to whatever it is that we're selling.
Another note about taste is that if you want a negotiation to go better and to put the prospect at ease, offer them warm beverages. There is actually a study, and you can check on our blog, about this, that warm beverages will yield better response from a prospect than the cold one. Actually, it is also better for your digestion. Okay, moving on. Then we have a smell. Okay,
Yes.
that ties really well with the taste, because for example the aroma of the beverage will also play a factor. For example, again, about decreasing anxiety, the aroma of vanilla for example, decreases anxiety. And when we are negotiating, anxiety is present, especially in the mind of the prospect that is resistant to spending the money, right? So it's important for in that moment for you to use that. Diffusers in the room, even the perfume that employees use. Just in the last episode, we did talk more about that. So go watch again, because we talked about even an airline that markets really well using aroma.
You know, aromas are so powerful, and far too often we basically disqualify them. We think, oh no, we don't need it. But here's the thing, like we talked about earlier, the smell connects directly to your limbic system, which in huge part, is connected to your emotions and even to your memories. And so, you know, it's used a lot, but I'll use it, I'm afraid, even though it's a little bit of a cliche, but it's that same thing that you know about, like the real estate agents. They'll go to a house and they're doing an open house, and they'll put some cookies in the oven, or a pie or something like that, essentially to put you in that frame of mind when you walk in, that will instantly connect you to a pleasant time in your life, when maybe a homey feeling, or maybe your grandma was preparing cookies for you. So it takes you from, okay, let's just go look at houses, to, oh, it reminds me of my childhood, or a good moment that I had with cookies. So it's scientifically, it really is scientific. Where you smell it, it takes you to that point, because it's associated to your memories.
And when really you're smelling those cookies or bread or whatever is baking in the oven, creates imagery in your brain of an ideal moment inside the home, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like if you smell bread, you see it.
Yeah. Now touch.
What about touch, Shahar? So touch is interesting. You can play a lot with touch, even from product surfaces, the
type
different
of
materials
fabrics that people are wearing, your product. What's the touch feeling when they get into your product?
Now, how do you do it? I might be putting you on the spot here, but even if it's not a,
you do that quite often?
How would I use it? Even if it's not, if I don't have a physical product, or if I have consulting.
Well, a simple thing when you're negotiating and trying to create a connection. For example, a light touch on the shoulder of a person will help you create that connection. Very simple thing. It actually works more with men, if I'm a man or a woman and I touch a man, than if I'm a man or a woman and I touch a woman. But the moment I create that, I start creating a connection. Okay?
Yes.
Unless you really don't like to be touched at all, that will not work. But there were some studies made about that. Very light touch.
Light touch. We're not saying, you know,
yeah.
hi,
what about
we're just a light
in a
touch.
networking meeting, for example, that we shake hands?
Yeah.
Firm, because
Firm.
that is part of touch. Okay, there is a helicopter coming by.
Yes.
So I think we talked enough. Use the 5 senses. See, sound, annoy, gets you out of there. Bye.
See ya.
There are so many things you can do to become irresistible to a market. And I want to take you in depth into this topic so you grow a lot your business. It's very simple. I have a full audio for you, totally free. All you have to do is go to buyingnature.com/gift and download the audio.
So many animals live in herds, right? They're born into a herd, into a group, and they'll stay there until they die. Much like humans, we need to categorize ourselves. We need to many times put ourselves into groups, because those groups give us a sense of identity. You know, the sense of belonging is one of the things that are way up there in Maslow's pyramid, for instance. So it's that important, that key to feel like you belong. So in your business, start thinking, okay, how can I make it so that my clients, my members, feel like they belong, that they're family? Maybe it's a membership program that you can put into place. Maybe it's a special VIP program for your clients only. Start thinking like that. How can I make it so that my clients feel like they're part of the family, like they want to be here, so that they feel like it's not just a business, it's just not a business transaction, it's more, it's something that has meaning to them, and it becomes part of their being. So always think, how can I make it so that my clients feel like they belong, so that they're welcome into my family? Think of your business as a family, and they need to be welcome into that.
This is such a pretty lake. You know, there are tons of birds out here. They have plenty of food. They eat brine shrimp, most of it, and insects. They don't eat fish though. You know why? Because there's no fish here. The reason is that the water here has 5 times more salt than the ocean. Can you imagine that? It's quite impressive. So, no fish around. But made me think of my first fish as a pet. You know, a goldfish on a round aquarium, a round glass bowl. I used to love that fish. It was so cute, had very puffy eyes. Well, you know, I was very good at feeding that fish, but not so good in changing the water and cleaning the bowl. I would postpone that as much as possible. So the water would start to get darker and murky, which was not very good for the fish, but I didn't know, I was just a little kid. Well, the funny thing is that if you put a fish inside a bowl of water and you allow the water to get murky, the fish will not notice that. For him, it's just another day in the bowl. It will think the water is just the same as the day before. It cannot perceive the change in the environment. You from the outside, you can see that the water is getting dirty, but the fish cannot. As business owners, we do the same thing. We get involved in our environment, we get emotionally involved in our business, and we actually cannot see when the water starts getting murky. You need fresh eyes from the outside to do that for you. That's why it's important for every single business owner to have a coach. And I know sometimes you think, no, I don't need a coach, or they are expensive. But the fact is that you cannot notice your own murky water. You need a pair of fresh eyes, and you need to bring an outsider that has no emotional connection with your business in order to do that. Isn't that cool? Now I have to throw some pebbles, so maybe we'll have Apple go into the water.
What a show, right? You know what? We really enjoy creating these episodes, this show, and we most certainly hope that you enjoy it as much as we do. The survival of this show depends really on your support and your involvement. So if you're listening on iTunes, don't forget, hey, if you're watching on iTunes, don't forget, hey, to give a thumbs up, leave a comment on YouTube, things like that, Facebook. Just let us know, let us feel loved, indulge us if you will. You know what? If you're watching on TV via Roku, hey, that's fun too. Keep doing it. Just make sure next time you join us as well. So, and that's it. That's all for this show. Just come back, let us feel loved, indulge us, and keep watching.